Greetings, everyone. TLP here, aka the Booger Picker. Why the Booger Picker, you may ask? Because more often than not, I get the booger picks as opposed to the clickety clicks. But what I have for you today, folks, is something that hopefully will help both you and I not to get as many booger picks, but instead the clickety clicks. I'm going to ramble for a little while. And for any of you out there who know me, I can ramble. I can talk. And I know in this community, we like to keep our videos short. So, fair warning. Just put the video on double play and listen. You may get something out of it, and it may help someone, and that's what we're here for. To help each other, to learn and grow from each other's knowledge and experience. Okay, now, with that said, we're going to talk about progressive pinning locks. For those out there, I'm a green belt on paper. I've met the requirements for blue belt. I just haven't submitted everything to actually get it. No, not a big deal. But for anyone out there who's, an orange belt, coming into green belt, thinking of going to blue belt or whatever, this is something that always comes up. I see quite a lot of posts in, the subreddit about progressive pinning of locks. Now I know, there's a few companies out there that sell practice locks, progressive locks. That'll have 2 pins, 3 pins, 4 pins, and then you can buy the, whatever, and okay. Nothing wrong with those. Not to downplay, downgrade, or anything like that. But this is what I do. Anybody's got any other methods, please share them in the comments below. But this is what I do. I, upon seeing someone share the link to where you could buy a simple, an American 1100 5-pin core. Just the core. C-clip, springs, driver pins, key pins, two keys, and the core. The shell and the core. Buy it all. And it comes from MrLock.com. Alright? And then I've seen a lot of people ask, is this a reputable company? Has anybody ordered from them? I'm here to tell you, I have, and I'll say this off the get-go. I ordered one of these Christmas Eve day. And I thought, well, because of both Christmas and New Year's, it would take either the company a little longer than normal because of the holidays, which is expected, to actually process and ship the order, or it would take the United States Postal Service longer to deliver. Now, I'll just say this. Kudos to both of them. Because I received it within a week. Now, granted, I live in Alabama, and it was shipped from Texas. So that's not that far. But I got it within a week. Right? Next thing I'll say. So, if anybody's asking if it's a reputable company, I'll say yes. I've ordered quite a few things from them. I've ordered a few of these individual American cores. They sell them both 5 pins and 6 pins with keys. You can get them key to lock, key different, all that. I'll share the link to MrLock.com in the description below. If anybody's interested, I can recommend this company. I've done business with them. But they sell, like I said, we all know this. These American cores, standard American core, 1100 core, comes drilled for 6 pins or 6 stacks, but they're only pinned up with 5 stacks. Well, this company sells them both 5 pins and 6 pins. As I said, I've bought, for any of you who gotten to this point where you're gutting, gutting and repinning and all that, you're going to mangle some springs. They sell springs relatively cheap. I bought a bag of those. But there you go. I'll throw this out there too, just for anybody, general purposes, anybody doesn't know this. I hope no one takes this the wrong way. Nobody take this the wrong way. But I see a lot of the folks in the community, they're all about picking locks. Picking locks, picking locks, picking locks. They don't ever purchase the tools to gut and reassemble and all that and move up the ranks. Now, I know everybody doesn't want to move up the ranks, and that's not what it's about, but it's the right tool for the right job. We've all heard that. Now, I'll throw this out there. These American 1100s, a 3/8 inch wooden dowel works great. Now, it's got a little bit of give in there, but it'll work. As long as you keep it pressed against the top where the Bible is, you should have no problems. Right? Something to remove the C-clip off the back of the cord. Sparrow's gut wrench. That's what I've got. Pinning tweezers. You can find these at quite a few sites. I got these from Sparrow's. But anyway, with all that said, this is what I do. I've bought a couple of these individual cores. Now, you can use them for spare parts. You can use them as progressive locks. I'll say this. I've got one over here that is the beginnings of a challenge lock. And this one's not an American 1100, but it's a Brink's deadbolt, and it's being progressively pinned. And I filed my first key using this, right? Basically, I bought a blank, took a file, filed that blank down to match the key that worked. But you can buy these cores, and they're relatively cheap. Now, I'm not going to go quoting the price because the website, the prices may change or whatever. But I'll say this. In general, you can buy, if you get keyed different, whatever, just random keyed different, you could probably get 3 of these cores, 5-pin cores, for relatively the same price that you buy a brand new American 1100. Do you see what I'm saying? And this core will fit into this lock. I've got one lock. Where's it at? I've got one 1100 right here. That you can constantly, whatever. You can pick it just like this, but you can put it in the body of the lock and pick it that way also. But, like I said, progressive pinning. Now that I got all that out of the way, like I said, I ramble. Hopefully, maybe somebody got something out of that. Some good information. But progressive pinning, what it actually is, and I'll throw this out there. I see so often in this community, somebody will instruct you, a video, or you'll read something, and it'll instruct you on what to do, but it won't actually explain how to actually do it. Slight, subtle difference. Progressive pinning. I see a lot of posts about this. But basically what it is, you'll take your lock. If it's one you've got, you can take it apart, gut it, put all your pieces out there. And basically what you do is you come back, and instead of reassembling it completely together, here, let's zoom in for this part. Now, I may have to shift some things around, and obviously it's not going to focus. Focus. It's not going to focus. It never does. I have to tell myself that all the time, focus. But it's not going to focus, which that's okay. But let's slide this down just a little bit. But this is what we want to see anyway. We don't need to see down there. But basically, progressive pinning, you'll come back, and here's the key that this one come with. So we can see how this is cut. It's a 5 cut. What is this? A 5/7. Hang on, it's on the back. Yeah. Not 5. It's a 4/7/2. Hang on. I just looked at it. I can't remember. Let me look at the other one. I can tell you what it is. 4/7/2/5/2. There we go. You see what I'm saying? 4/7/2/5/2. 5 pins. But basically what progressive pinning is you come back and you take, obviously, your key pins. Now, I know some people, they'll just randomly put them key pins back in that lock, in that core, in that shell, and put it back together. And they'll do it in such a way that the key won't open. Hey, if you want to do it that way, go right ahead. You'll never get it open again until you pick it, which I guess that's the point, right? But me, I don't want to do that. Me, I'll use the pins and I'll put them back in relation to the key. Therefore, the key will work in the shell, in the core, I should say. But what I do is this deep cut and this shallow cut, because it's such a difference. That's the two I would start with. And I've got them laid out here. And I know most people, they'll start over here, like stack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And they'll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I do it just opposite. I hold that cord in my hand here. Let's do this so you can see it. I hold that cord in my hand like this, and that's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that's the way I lay out my stacks. Just so everybody knows, so there's no confusion. Somebody goes, "Oh, he's putting it together backwards." No, that's the way I lay them out when I put them out on a pinning tray. I know a lot of people don't do it that way, and it doesn't make sense to me. I'm right-handed, start on the right side. I hold the core in my hand to the right. That's the way I do it that way. Anyway, it doesn't matter. To each his own. Everybody do it their own way. But like I said, because cut 2 and 3, there's such a difference. There's such a difference between cut 2 and cut 3. That's the two I would start on down here. Now, I'm going to throw this out there. I'm going to go ahead and put these key pins back in here. Number 2 and number 3. You can get a hold of it. That's a tiny little booger right there. Okay, now to make sure that I got them in the right place, we're going to slowly, keyword slowly, you jam it in there, pins are going to fly out. You slowly stick it back in there and just make sure they're flush. See how those two pins are flush with the shear line. Okay, so we know we got them in the right spot. Okay, now, here's a tip. Here's a little tip. This is, if you don't catch anything from this video, catch this. Who was it? I think it was a Helpful Lockpicker. One of his videos, he mentioned this. And I was like, okay, that's a good tip. I'll have to put that in my brain housing group and remember that. And I'll go ahead and say this. This lock, this core, did not follow this standard, if you will. Because we know they make these things, they mill them, they drill them out, and they do all that stuff, and then they randomly throw in the driver pins, the top pins, whether they be spools or serrateds or whatever. They just randomly put them in the lock. They don't always fall into they don't always get put where they're going to be most effective. And I'll show you. Like I said, Helpful Lockpicker, I think that's who it was, who said this. He was talking about how when I don't remember the application of whether he was talking about challenge lock or progressive pinning or what, that he was basically saying in order to make we'll just put it this way, a spool pin effective, you need to put a spool pin into the stack that has a short key pin. See, if I put it in this one right here, it's not going to go down in there. And it's the narrow part, I knew I was going to do that. The narrow part of the spool is not actually going to go down into the core. So in fact, what happens is the spool nature of the spool pin does not come into play. Therefore, it loses its effectiveness as a spool pin, and it simply acts as a standard pin. But if you put that spool pin into one of these stacks that has a short key pin, the spool aspect of this pin will come into play, and you will get that false set that we so expect from spool pins. Does that make sense? Focus. Really? Now it doesn't even want to focus on that. There we go. But do we see what I'm saying? So the general rule is to put your spool pins into the stacks with the short key pins, and your serrated pins in the stacks with the long key pins. Now hold the key back up here so you can see it. Does that make sense? That way, the narrow part of the middle of the spool pin actually comes into play. And it basically gets to do the job it was made to do. You see what I'm saying? Your purpose in life is to act as a spool pin. Well, let's not put you in a stack where you can't do your job. Fulfill your purpose. Does that make sense? And basically, let me throw this one out there. I got a question. This, like I said, all these pins down here, and that's what came in this lock. Now, this spool pin right here, it was actually in stack 2 where it wasn't doing it any good. But when I progressively pinned it, I put it over here. Makes sense? But here's a question. Hey, it's a side note. A question. I know, we all know we can order key pins, driver pins, security pins. Now, granted, for those of you who don't know, the diameter of pins in an American lock is a lot smaller than the diameter in most other locks, whether they be door locks or padlocks. So you can't go, ordering chess pins and checker pins from Sparrows and expect them to work in American lock. Diameter's not right. It won't work. So, but here's my question. These pins, I see this on a few American locks when I got them. Not all of them, but some of them. Obviously, we know what a serrated pin is. It has the tiny serrations. But if we look closely at this spool pin, it has a serration. Both the top and the bottom of the spool has one single serration. Now this lock itself, this one right here, in stack 1, the driver pin is a spool pin. And it too has a single serration on both the top and the bottom of that spool. Like I said, I've got American locks that have spool pins that don't have that serration. Some of the spool pins do, and some of them don't. But my question is this. Does anyone know where you can order spool pins for an American lock that have that serration? Where can you order those? I've looked around on the site. Like I said, I got this from American Lock. I looked around on their site, and they sell, let me put this down before I drop it to the concrete, the monster of the concrete floor in my shop here, my booger bunker, as I call it. MrLock.com, while I ordered this core and all this, he sells, both the bottom pins, the key pins, and the top pins. And he's got the serrated pins, and then he sells some that says top/mushroom/spool pins. Never ordered any of them. The description is not very well written, so I don't know if those spool pins that are in that are actually serrated or not. And it's got a picture, but the picture, like most of the times, is fuzzy and out of focus, and you can't quite tell. You can't always rely on what the picture shows. Does that make sense? But basically, my question is, does anyone know where you can order driver pins that are the correct diameter for American locks? What is it? 0.9301 1/1000th of an inch, I think is what it is, if my memory serves me correctly. But where can you order serrated spool pins that will fit in an American lock, as opposed to the simple serrated pins or simply spool pins? But the spool pins that have that serration on both the top and the bottom. Does anybody know where you can order that? Anyway, there you go. There's that. But, like I said, you just pin it up. You put them back in there. You start off with just 2 stacks. You put it back together. Put your clamp on there. And you can pick it. And you pick it and pick it and pick it. And then you come back. And you can put you another key pin in there, or you could change up the spool and serrated pin, put 2 spools, 2 serrated, 1 of each, change up the orientation of the driver pins. But you're basically randomizing the lock. And you come back and you put you another key pin. Now instead of having 2 stacks, now you got 3. And then you change up the driver pins on that, put it back together. You pick it, you pick it, you pick it, you take it apart. You see what I'm saying? But basically what you're doing is you're learning, for me anyway. Spool pins I've got, no problem. I can handle spool pins. It's the serrated pins, not the serrated spool pins. Those have been boogering me up. But just standard, I know that's an oxymoron, standard serrated pins. That's kind of an oxymoron, but you understand what I'm saying. The pins that normally come in American locks, driver pins, are serrated pins. A lock with all serrated pins, I have trouble with that. Being able to identify when I have correctly set those pins. Now I know I've seen the jiggle test video. I get shared that with me all the time. I've watched all these videos and I see it on paper, so to speak, but then actually putting it into practice, yeah, it's not that easy. For me anyway. And that's where this comes in, progressive pinning. But that's what I've been doing the past, I don't know, couple of weeks. I've just been messing with this. You know, and every now and then I'd grab an actual lock and try to, or pick, whatever. But I'm always coming back to this because I'm trying to identify, how do I say it? I'm trying to pick the locks and interpret the feedback to know, okay, there's a serrated pin, and then have I properly set it? You see what I'm saying? You get the feedback, but you got to interpret. Your brain's got to interpret the feedback to know what's actually going on. You know, because I hear so often, and hey, I'm the same way. It just feels crunchy, feels sluggish. To me, it feels like a booger inside there. That's what I always say. You know, be evil. You always say, put evil in it. Yeah, it feels evil. It feels crunchy. It feels, I don't know. But progressive pinning, they say, and it's helped, that's the method to help. You start off with 2 stacks, you work up to 3, you work up to 4, you work up to 5. But like I said, you can buy these individual cores for, you know, basically under $10. And then whatever the shipping is. It depends on, you get keyed different, keyed to like, custom keyed, all that. But like I said, for the most part, you can order about 3 of these cores for the price you're going to pay for a full-size lock. Well, it depends on, you know, if you get a deal on a lock or not. But yeah, relatively, 2 or 3 of these for the price you're going to pay for a whole lock. Makes sense. But if anybody's got any suggestions, please share them in the comments. You got a video you want to share? Share them in the comments. You got some helpful advice, constructive criticism that we all can learn from. Please put it in the comments below. But with all that, I say thanks for watching. And as always, keep it safe, keep it legal, and good picking. Booger Picker out.